The Special Love, a talk for Unity Christ Center, Eau Claire, Wisconsin, May 11th, 2008. In 1021 of the Christian era, a young blue-eyed European Muslim in Andalusia received a letter from a friend who asked him to compose a treatise on love. Ali ibn Hazm al-Andalusi was 27 years old. He was grieving the destruction of his home, which was destroyed by religious fundamentalists in a war. He grieved the recent death of a young woman, his love, Nu'um. He grieved the death of his mother and his father, who had been the vizier to the Caliph of Andalusia. Ibn Hazm's friend believed that the project may be an anodyne to the devastating grief and allow Ibn Hazm access to greater love. Ibn Hazm responded to that request and wrote The Dove's Neck Ring, which may be the first Islamic treatise on love and its various emotional modes. In his grief, he plumbed the mysteries of love's variations. This prose treatise included almost 200 of Ibn Hazm's poems, many written while he was a teenager. As he aged, Ibn Hazm grew to be a misanthrope, and he spoke often of hatred for other men, especially Persians, Jews, and Christians. His friend's suggestion did not help expand Ibn Hazm's capacity for love. Ibn Hazm had watched war and devastation overtake his homeland. War between Islamic sects continued for decades. There were wars with the European Christians who attempted to reconquer the Iberian Peninsula. If I read Ibn Hazm's work correctly, his heart and his love contracted so that he could only hold to the narrowing contexts of his strict religious sect and a rationalist's certainty. It appears he lost the ability to see the mystery of metaphor and imagery which uphold and flow through good poems. He wrote, quote, "Language only is for communication. It should be clear, not built on undertone, and not be a mystery," unquote. This combination creates a psychic barrier to hidden and vivifying resources of soul. It often leads to hatred. When Ibn Hazm wrote his love poems, his heart and mind were filled with possibility, imagination, and mystery. Remember that word, possibility. Let me give you this poem from The Dove's Neck Ring. This is my version. Are you from the world of angels, or are you human? I can't tell. Through weary eyes, I'm stunned. I see a human form, but as I look more deeply, your body seems from another world. Blessed be the God who puts balance and grace into creation. You are a beautiful, natural light. I don't doubt that you're a spirit, drawn to us by the earthly mingling of our like-minded souls. We don't have proof, so to speak, that you are flesh and blood, except you are visible. And if we don't see a real person, we have to say, you are true, sublime reason. This is a poem written by a true lover, Ibn Hazm, as a young man. His commentaries on love and the various types of love inspired the first European troubadours. After returning from the First Crusade, Guillaume of Poitiers, who is considered to be the first troubadour, began profound work in the style of Ibn Hazm and other Moors. Fed up with the Christian crusader mentality, Guillaume went in the psychic direction opposite of Ibn Hazm. Guillaume continued writing poetry until his death. As far as we know, Ibn Hazm ceased to write poetry and wrote only prose for philosophical and religious texts. A dark belief system grew out of his grief. 21st century Islamic State terrorists and their sympathizers are known to claim Ibn Hazm as one of their inspirational philosophers. The troubadour expressed his love for a noblewoman, usually one of his social betters or someone he could not have. She was someone with whom he could have a socially distanced affection, and he could flatter her. In a time of arranged marriages, this practice lent inner imaginal excitement to both the noblewoman and the poet. Unfulfilled physically, this kind of love was often used for spiritual practice. This love was called fin amour, which means a refined love. The troubadour wrote so that his love would be both spiritual in the soul and adulterous in the imagination. It could be extremely dangerous for him to proceed to a physical relationship. In Islamic Sufi thought, which Ibn Hazm may have been aware, there is the state of ordinary love, which is a perception of impalpable beauty and or grace. Sufis say that ordinary love beautifies existence. And then there is special love, which occurs when ordinary love changes us to where we view the beauty of essences, not the beauty of form. Special love, as Sufis say, refines existence. Before the troubadours, European poetry was written as lore, conquest, and heroics. Love poetry addressed physical pleasure and the conquest of the lover. Thanks to the troubadours, Ibn Hazm, and the Andalusian poets, European consciousness evolved to a new level. The subsequent chivalry and minstrelsy quickly spread this soul growth. The ambiguity of the poetry of fin amour changed Western emotional thought forever. Dante, Petrarch, Chaucer, Shakespeare, and many other Europeans acknowledged their debt to the troubadours, and thus Andalusian Moors such as Ibn Hazm. Suddenly, romantic love could be a spiritual practice. About 150 years after Ibn Hazm's death, another Andalusian, the great master Ibn al-Arabi, one of the world's greatest masters of spiritual thought, wrote poems for a young Persian teenager named nizam, or harmony. Scholars refer to his poems as Sophianic poetry, the expression of the spiritual experience of love with the divine feminine. Because Sophianic poetry describes imaginative love through metaphor and language as if physical love, Ibn al-Arabi was accused of perversity and heresy. Religious clerics produced a fatwa which denounced him as a heretic, and this threatened him with execution. Ibn Arabi's commentary for his poems and his acquaintance with and favor from political leaders in Damascus kept him alive. Ibn al-Arabi transcended the dilemma of the ambiguity between physical and spiritual love. Ibn Hazm could not. Here is Ibn al-Arabi's poem, The Special Love. It gives us a sense of his meanings of love. As a full moon appears from the night, so her face appears amid tresses. From sorrow comes the sense of her, eyes shedding tears on a cheek, like the black narcissus weeping onto a rose. Mere beautiful women are silenced, so overwhelming is her fairness. Even to think of her harms her subtlety. Thought is too coarse for knowing her, for her fleeting wonder eludes thinking. If this is so, how can such a clumsy organ as the eye correctly see her? She is beyond the rainbow of seeing. Cease these attempts. Such trying is futile. Yet, if someone seeking her lowers his aspirations to feel ordinary love, there are always others who continue through the night across the sea with eyes longing for her. Ibn al-Arabi understood the role of the divine feminine. As a teenager, he had a spiritual teacher who was over 90 years old, Fatima of Cordova, who told him, quote, "I am your spiritual mother." Quote, "I am your spiritual mother and the light of your earthly mother." Unquote. While Ibn Hazm withdrew into misanthropy and fundamentalism, Ibn al-Arabi wrote of the expanding heart and understood that poetry was an appropriate instrument for the transmission of essential truths. He was able to love the divine as the feminine mother, not just as the masculine father. The special love of al-Arabi, the fin amour of the troubadours, Dante's love for Beatrice, Petrarch's love for Laura, even Shakespeare's love, which is expressed in his sonnets, could be known as love for God's feminine divinity, which has often been called Sophia, the complex divine feminine essence. The psychologist Robert Sardello tells us that Sophia has a threefold nature. 1. Sophia is the creation of the elements that condense into earth. 2. There's the heavenly Sophia, or the wisdom of the world. 3. The Sophia who remains in the realm of chaos, the underworld, not hell. In mythic language, we have heard of these three as virgin, mother, and crone. An example of Sophia as creation of the elements that condense into earth are in this poem, a poem that I wrote. An evening so beautiful. Even the moon has envy. She throws off her see-through gown, and so begins our love affair in the garden, where the rainbow faded at sunset. New stars emerge, the way lavender sprouts from the soil. Cottonwoods whisper, fireflies, those love darts from the stars, dance over the hidden meadow. Their codes twinkle and catch our eyes. Then our hearts spin slowly in the shadow of a blooming catalpa. Its white petals drop like warm pearls from the lips of our private goddess. A wide-eyed doe, slender to her flank, flicks her tail, flutters her lashes, then bounds away with the grace of a swaying lily. When we use the language of love, we use words such as longing, desire, hope, anxiety, anticipation, need, want, and even despair. All of these have a strong reference to the future. The soul, our souls, have an intense interest in the future. The Austrian thinker Rudolf Steiner said that there is a second current of time that comes to us from the future, flows into the present and toward the past. Sardello says that this current is Sophia. When people are in love, they are in this current from the future. The past is forgotten. It does not exist in this current. And one forgets the inbuilt limitations stemming from the past. Imagination is predominant. Everything is possible. This is a gift of love. Possibilities come to us from the future as gifts from God the Mother. We feel her presence as longing, as the safety of the moment, as a loved being. The effort to live in the moment is to live where the current from the past and the current from the future intersect at the human heart, a heart that is in love with life, a heart that is throbbing and pulsing, seeking God through the divine feminine principles of possibilities, wholeness, and love. Of course, none of this contradicts or excludes the traditional beliefs of a paternal God the Father. Ibn Hazm ran from the possibility of divine femininity, while Ibn al-Arabi ran toward it, as if he experienced the divine feminine. I'll finish with this, my own poem, which tries to describe how I sometimes get a glimpse of the Divine Mother. But such explanations are difficult, and the experience defies accurate explanation. The poem is titled Glass Brick. I was dreaming. I was so happy. I knew your love would hold me forever. Now, I can't remember you. My mind is a glass brick. Light and shades enter, but not your face. My heart knows you, but it's pierced by my forgetfulness. and I can't stop aching for you. Thank you.